Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by my esteemed co-host Tucker Hazel, because we are here because it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Lord's Day, and I don't mean Sunday, I mean Tucker Hazel's Day, because this is the Hazel Palooza, because
oh my god,
I've been out of town.
Yep.
I've been playing very few games. I got two I want to mention, just two, but Tucker, in the time that I was visiting my girlfriend Jean in California, beat like literally a game a day. Yeah. So this is his day. I'm going to do the intro, and then he is going to, as I have dreamt about for months, take the stick and lead us through his, I would call it an odyssey, even though it's mainly a PlayStation, a little road trip we're about to embark on. I'll leave you, Tucker, to take the stick, as I said.
Yes.
Take the wheel and park us in the first game for the day.
Well, I would first rather say the plugs, because you're a fucking moron. You forgot the second half of the intro. You're too busy thinking about me. And, I understand that. Everyone's always doing that. But if you want to tell us about the games you've been playing, you can join the Discord, link in the description. You can also like the video, subscribe to the bell, and ring the channel. All that fucking shit. I'm going to start mixing them up every time, because then people will notice more. And then they'll be like, hey, that caught my attention. I'll do that.
What if we got Tanner to tattoo the bell and the subscription button, the like button on his chest?
Oh, so we can ring the bell, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
All right, we're going to park on the first game of the day. Now, I think I want to, here's the thing. This is very complex for me.
Yes.
Not because I don't have anything to talk about. It's basically the exact opposite of that. I would probably say that the last 10 days have been the most productive gaming days of my entire life. Like, as a week, I've gotten more knocked off my backlog, more knowledge of different genre types and franchises in a condensed period of time than I ever have in my entire life. And it's been pretty nice, honestly. I've been in a great mood doing it.
Good.
But we still have one finish up from last episode, which was about 2 weeks ago, which is Horizon Zero Dawn. I was like 4 or 5 hours in when we first talked about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know how I feel about certain things, but I'm enjoying it overall. But I finished Horizon Zero Dawn in a quick burn through. It was like 3 or 4 days of just like 5 or 6 hours a day, got it knocked out, and I really, really love this game. I think it's quite excellent, and I think it kind of is the inverse of Breath of the Wild. I know obviously the comparisons have always been made, but it's interesting how the two games have very different strengths in a somewhat similar format. You think about the open world and the shooting things with bows and the hunting and all that stuff. Of course, that's all there, but Breath of the Wild, fantastic emergent gameplay, very weak story, very weak bosses, very weak dungeons, stuff like that. Horizon Zero Dawn, personally, I felt that the open world was okay to explore, but nothing incredibly memorable. However, great story, great characters, great lore, great like boss battles and designed encounters and sort of dungeon designed areas that you're supposed to explore and platform through in a certain way as you're doing specific missions. What are you setting up?
I didn't charge my laptop. Why would I do that before we started?
Okay. But I came to appreciate this game for its own strengths in when I've really gotten raptured in the story. I mean, it was the kind of game where I would put it down and, all right, I gotta go do my laundry or wash the dishes or like get some human shit done. But then I'm like, but I gotta know what happens next. I gotta know what that next twist is, because man, oh fucking man, the lore here might be my second favorite. Now, it's up there in my favorite sci-fi stories of all time. The amount of depth and nuance and like moral ambiguity and layers to these past characters and what they mean for the present characters and the reframing of all of it is quite extraordinary. It is delivered in a very awkward way through dialogue tapes or like audio logs that you can't pause and explore the environments. You have to sit there and listen to like there's a few things that definitely need to be ironed out for a sequel. And guess what? Fucking Forbidden West coming right around the goddamn corner. So I'm sure a lot of that will be ironed out, but man, I'm very glad I played this back to back to starting Forbidden West when it comes out, because I'm now very invested. I have a reason to care about this world. Whereas for the experience that I had before, I didn't know any of the lore. I knew Aloy was an outcast. These tribes are at war. Cool. But now I know why she's exploring, who she is, how she fits into this world. And it's very, very fascinating and super, super exciting to get a game that is this, but better, presumably.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the good part of Horizon Zero Dawn for me.
Yeah.
It's the world that Guerrilla created. It's just for me, if I in the context of an open world game, I want to get that storytelling and that love of the world and the lore through the gameplay, and that's what ended up faltering for me. But when I was at CBR, I both wrote and edited many pieces about the world of Horizon, which is, I think, what makes it so remarkable on top of what is a pretty standard open world gameplay format. But the reason that I'm actually becoming more and more excited for Forbidden West is because I was watching some of the more recent footage and like how dynamic Aloy is in combat. But also the underwater environments, which is what I think I'm most excited about in that game. Like, it looks like we're going to take this amazing lore that is kind of the backbone of the series and actually give it gameplay that is going to make me want to connect to the story more. 100%. Because I personally, just because of the way the game feels, I can't push through that narrative. But but for Forbidden West, that one's gonna turn the old PS5 on. I'll tell you something.
Oh yeah, and it's pretty damn soon. Very excited.
Yeah.
Anything else about Horizon? No, it sounds like that's a no. Which brings us to a game that has been on my backlog ever since we started BLB, and one of our first videos, you actually recommended this to me, which is Streets of Rage 4, which I played through one sitting with my good buddy Joe. We booted it up on his Switch, and my beat 'em up experience, as I've said before, is rather limited. You and I played through Streets of Rage 1 last year. I've dabbled in a few other ones, but Streets of Rage 4 is obviously, from my experience, the pinnacle of this genre, and I think it'd be hard to contest in people who even are experienced in this. This seems to be very highly regarded across the board, and yeah, I can tell why now. I mean, I had a great time going through this game with my friend. I do think the difficulty balance when you're playing with another person is really perfect. We had a couple of times where we would bang our head against the boss for like 2 or 3 rounds, like, this guy's an asshole. Like, I can't believe he's dodging all these attacks and doing all this. But then we'd, on the last breath of health on our third try, would punch him in the face, be like, oh yeah. So there was really a satisfying factor there. And I do think that there's a great sense of world and character and personality to all these animations and the four characters that you can play as. I chose Cherry Hunter, and she has an electric guitar, and it's fucking awesome. But I appreciated this game a lot more than I was expecting to. And for the length that it is, it's perfect for me. Like, I'm not the kind of person to go back and try for high scores, do the side modes, any of that. But I got my fill with the 2.5, 3 hours, whatever it took us to finish the game. And chef's kiss. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think Streets of Rage 4 is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it definitely works with you, because if people remember, I was talking about how I was getting my dick kicked back into me by River City Girls.
It's usually out. I just want to clarify.
Thank you for the record. But you, like, when I played Streets of Rage 4, I didn't find it that difficult, because I think the game is really good at being accessible and empowering in a way that a more like retro inspired beat 'em up isn't quite, because this is a spiritual successor to one of the beat 'em ups, but it feels very modern for as, you know, it's still stage based, it still has these sort of archetypal beat 'em up movement, right? But I think that I love the risk and reward system of being able to burn your health bar to hit those special moves. I think there's a lot of really great stuff in that game. So
the only elements of it that hold it back from pure greatness and being one of my favorite games, because a lot of it is super cool, is that the story is not particularly compelling. It exists to get you from stage to stage, from fucking sewers to police office to whatever, and like, these are ridiculous set piece moments, but they're kind of just there. Like, they're pretty generic cyberpunk crime stuff that it doesn't really resonate with me. It was all very well done, but it's not particularly unique. And also within beat 'em up gameplay, it being 2D, but you have like a 3D space to move around in, sometimes it's very hard to line up your hits. I mean, of course you get better at it as you go, but just slipping and punching someone right above their head, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, I was just ahead of him, and then, you know, you get punched in the face and fuck up the whole combo and all that. But obviously that got ironed out for the most part as I played through the game. I do think there are some strange difficulty spikes that we experience with some bosses, and moments where a boss will summon a previous boss and you're like, what the you're allowed to fucking do this? But those are pretty minor nitpicks, because we pushed through and had a great time playing the game.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Tip my cap to Dotemo. Yeah, Dotemo. All right. from another co-op experience of a genre that I'm not particularly experienced with to another one of those. You and I played Battlefield 1.
Right. Yes. Jesus fuck, that was a million years ago.
It feels like a long time ago. It feels like even longer to me because I hardly even remember that I played this game. Not because I didn't enjoy it, as we'll get to, but because I've played so much since then.
Yes.
But Battlefield 1, my first Battlefield game. I mean, I've gone on record in the past episodes of the show saying, if you had showed me side-to-side gameplay comparison of Call of Duty and Battlefield, two franchises I had zero experience with until this year, I would never be able to tell the difference. I didn't know why they were competing, how they're different. But now having played, can you name the specific mode that we played?
Yeah, we were playing Conquest.
Conquest, okay, which as I think you've told me is sort of the Battlefield mode. Like it's the one that everyone knows from Battlefield. Yeah. I can certainly tell why Battlefield is its own thing and very impressive because of this. I mean, Battlefield 1, 2016 game, I believe. This game looks just as good as modern games. Like I'm stunned how well this holds up, because usually, you think modern or like a realistic art direction pretty quickly dips downhill, but that mid PS4 generation still holds up very well, and I was very blown away by the visuals, which I'm bringing up because I think it tied quite directly into the sense of spectacle and grandeur that you feel playing in these very richly detailed, very destructible, very interactable maps, large scale maps. That is how I am able to resonate with and understand why Battlefield is special now.
Yeah, Battlefield 1 was my first Battlefield also, and this game was this was a cultural event in my friend group in high school when this game came out. Mm-hmm. We played so much fucking Battlefield 1. And jumping back into it with you, which was the first time I played it since In the Name of the Tsar, which was the first DLC expansion. So like 2017, I think.
Probably, yeah.
It was the last time I really was playing the game. It just still feels great, and I think that spectacle is a big part of it.
Yeah.
The time to kill is very low, but what's great about Battlefield is that it is not about spawning, killing or being killed, respawning, killing or being killed. It is about the combined arms gameplay. It's about holding down one of the command posts. Yeah. It's about the teamwork, the medic revive. I'm always the medic. That's my job. There's just such a great gameplay loop to Battlefield. And when you combine it with the fact that somebody's in a fucking Sherman tank and they drive through your building and you're watching the building fall apart around you as you're being shelled by a plane and you're charging up a hill to bayonet somebody, like, this game does a great job of having those blockbuster moments. And if you play more of them, you see more of them. Like I was, the running across the blimps and everything. Like I've done that, and it's so much fun, right? But it balances that really well with a sense of scale that keeps you in the game longer and stops you from just dying and being back. And that happens if you're trying to hold down a point and you're trying to respawn your teammates, and there's that frantic element to the gameplay loop. But I think the pace of Battlefield and the size of Battlefield is why it goes for me Halo, Battlefield, and then basically everything else, because I don't really care to play it.
Sure.
But I'm on the multiplayer front also.
Oh, sure. I see what you're saying. My bad. My bad.
But no, I would actually love to play more with you. I'd actually love to try out 5, because I never played 5.
I deleted it because I was going to download Destiny 2. We were going to try Destiny 2. My Xbox is fucking allergic to Destiny 2, I guess. Yeah. Because I've tried to download it like genuinely 5 different times, and it stops about 5% in. It's like, this is just not working. Like, try again later. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And people aren't having, because I have never heard of this issue, and I installed Destiny 2 on a Series S. Yeah. Like, I've never heard of this happening. This is quite bizarre.
I tried to download it again at work today from my phone, and it started downloading. I don't know if it continued. I can actually actively check now if it's downloaded. But same thing happened before, and when I went to my Xbox, it was like still on the thing, and it was stuck. And when I fucking tried, it would close back down, and then if I deleted it, it would like go away completely. Yeah, it's a fucking shit show and a half.
Sure, but Battlefield 1, very good game.
Yeah, really good game. I was very impressed by it, and how I resonated more with the scope and scale and spectacle of this being what war is. Being representative. Kind of 1-to-1, but obviously you can't respawn. Right. You can't fucking heal your buddies in actual World War I. But I was impressed by it, and I'd be interested to try more of the campaigns of Battlefield, more of the games in the franchise of Battlefield. Yeah. Frankly, I think it'd be really funny to try 2042 at some point in my life. But I consider myself tickled pink with the Battlefield franchise.
I actually think you made a mistake by deleting Battlefield 1 before you played the War Stories. Because you can knock out that War Story mode really quickly, which I know is your thing. You can do that in an afternoon. But also those are really great and I think really well curated ways to show how good gunplay feels in Battlefield and how they're able to sort of railroad you through like the Call of Duty set pieces, but with the Battlefield mechanics. I think that intersection is really good. I think like Battlefield 4's campaign goes too far in that direction to where it just becomes kind of a linear Call of Duty shooter, which I enjoy. I enjoy the Call of Duty campaigns, but I think that loses some of what makes Battlefield so good. But those war stories are quite compelling if you ever feel the urge to re-download the game.
No, I'd rather have it on my console than neither it or Destiny 2. I thought that I didn't have space for Destiny, which is why I deleted it, because believe it or not, Battlefield 1 with all the DLC, that for whatever godforsaken reason, we had to download it all to fucking start a multiplayer match. It takes up a lot of space on my Series S, which
it's like 70 gigs.
Which has that much space, but not enough for me to just keep downloading these fucking giant games. But you know what? The Destiny 2, it says download to console. It should say downloaded if I started it this morning.
Right.
So we're gonna download fucking Battlefield 1.
Sure. I will say I've been meaning to rub this in your face. I bought 6 games yesterday. Just downloaded them all to my Xbox. Didn't have to worry about that size. Downloaded, you know.
Oh wait, hold on. Never mind. I still have it on my console. Launch on this console.
You should play those.
Give me one of your games.
One of my games? Sure.
Yeah, we'll allow you in for a few minutes per day.
Here's what I want to say. I just want to mention really quickly. Halo has a new event, which I barely started. Tucker, this is a cyberpunk themed event. Not 2077, but cyberpunk aesthetics and things. So
maps? You mean?
No, cosmetics in various things to unlock. But this adds a new mode called attrition, and so I played a little bit of that. The point is, I'm gonna have more to say on it next week because I barely got to play it. The game I want to talk about is Mario Party Superstars. Now the reason I want to talk about this game is not because I played it, because I actually didn't. I watched other people play it.
Sure.
So
you weren't involved at all? Because you would have just wiped the fucking floor with them, and you're like, I need the peasants to play with themselves.
No, I didn't want to play. Basically, I just didn't want to play Mario Party.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The context of the evening was that I was in California with my girlfriend, Jean, and so a lot of her friends and family were coming over for a big party. Because she was away in Spain, we were back for a couple days, then flew back here to learn. But a bunch of people were over, and so played a little bit of Smash Brothers, played some various stuff, but we popped in Mario Party. And the reason I want to talk about it is because this setting showed me why people fucking love Mario Party.
Sure. You mean Superstars in particular, or just Mario Party? Because I
thought
Mario
Party.
I thought you liked Mario
in general. I think I like it, but I don't think I've, especially after Superstars, never fully understood what people love about it, right?
Sure.
And I think I get it a little bit better now, because the people on the couch, Jean is a casual player, and a couple of her friends play games, but one of her friends in particular basically had never held a controller before, and her mom was watching, and they're playing, and it's quite an intuitive game, so they're having a great time just rolling around the board and playing mini games. But the really fun stuff was like hearing, because they're playing on the Yoshi map where it's Bowser and Toadette. Bowser, who steals your shit, and
the
Toadette,
Fruit Island,
who gives you a star, and they gets flipped back and forth constantly. And so like somebody would roll and land on, have to talk to Bowser, and Jean's mom would be like, "What's that big dinosaur doing?" And they're like, "He's the dinosaur, Koopa's the turtle." They've got no fucking idea what Birdo is, right? Like, there's a certain magic to it that Nintendo designs their characters and their gameplay experiences to allow people who have no fucking context for what's going on to play and enjoy.
Not that there's a ton of context in Mario Party Superstars, but
no. But like, you don't have to know. You don't even fucking have to know who any of the characters are to have fun. And it was a really great illustration to me of why Nintendo is such a timeless company, and why they move so many games on the backs of people who aren't us, right? Because they don't give a shit that Mario Party Superstars is N64 boards. And it was kind of a weird way to buttress Nintendo's 2021 because it's reused content. It was like what's the big dinosaur man doing, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really fun. And it's sort of a lens into, because we could not be further into the weeds of this stuff, right?
That's true.
So pulling back and
my
watching,
head is barely peeking out. I've got my fucking eyebrows sticking up above.
we're like the Apocalypse Now poster where it's just Martin Sheen's eyes above the water, right?
Yeah.
But seeing people outside of our sphere play this game and enjoy it and laugh and have that much fun didn't change what a jaded and annoying person I am.
Of course not.
But it offered a kind of a cool perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I've played I played Superstars with a group of people my age, my friend group, who we had a great time with it. I've had a good time playing that game every time that I've played it with a group. I obviously, Nintendo games, Mario Party especially, facilitates that kind of pick up and play. Anyone can do fucking whatever attitude. And there's not a ton like that. I mean, even when you talk about accessible co-op indie games or multiplayer games from other companies, no one really cares unless it's got Mario on it, frankly. Yeah, right. And so they fill a niche. So the fact that there is a modern Mario Party for people to play, and you can just pop out the Switch and hand people Joy-Con and stuff, good for them.
Yeah.
For us, though.
Well, it even translated to Smash Brothers, which was fun because her uncle was playing, and her mom says to her uncle, like, "What is this game?" And he goes, "Oh, it's Mario Brothers and Street Fighter put together."
Oh,
and that was his reference. So he gets handed a Joy-Con because we didn't have enough control. It was impromptu, so everyone's playing with single Joy-Con.
Of course, yeah.
He doesn't know how to fucking hold it, but then he's like, "Ryu, I'm a man in like my late 30s, but I played Street Fighter 2 in arcade." So he's playing as Ryu, and he's literally just doing the hurricane kick back and forth across the stage. That's all he can do. But everyone's having a great time. You know, they're all having so much fun. But,
good for them.
Yeah.
I wish we weren't as up. Our heads weren't as far up our own asses as they are.
I wish mine was further. But that
can be arranged. That's neither here nor there. All right, let's jump back to the real meat and potatoes of what is my, as you said, PlayStation journey. Because I like PlayStation games, and as we'll talk about today, played quite a few new franchises from PlayStation. I've realized that there's basically no Sony first-party games that I've played that I dislike. Maybe there's 2 out of like 30 something that I've played, and this past week or week and a half, whatever, I've added quite a few to that litany. And the first one is an underrated gem, some are saying, and this by some I mean you and me, basically the only people. The Order 1886 is not what it was sold as, but it's great for what it is. For the first major exclusive on the platform of the PS4 generation, I can definitely see why people were disappointed in this. It does not really push any boundaries. It doesn't really have too much to say for itself, but I playing it entirely divorced from that context, having spent $10 on it on eBay last year, and just playing it to have experienced an early PS4 generation game that frankly no one talks about, that got this whole weird history about how the sequel was canceled and it felt so hard that people were like, oh, there's no fucking hope for PS4, all this shit. I was able to find a game that I became very interested in. The world of the Order 1886 is the Knights of the Round Table meets dirty, grimy 1800s England meets cyberpunk Steam shit. I was like, who the fuck came up with this? Like, when was the last time you saw a game set in the 1880s? Fucking never. But everything that this game has in terms of its identity very much resonated with me. The story that spoilers for the fucking Order 1886 includes vampires and werewolves and political nonsense in the background, with a history of the knights versus the what they call the half-breeds, which are the werewolves and vampires. There's a really rich and interesting history there that I found pretty interesting, even if it's not the greatest part of the game. But what this game does best, and why I think it was positioned as one of the first big exclusives for the PS4, is this game looks fucking great. The texture quality and detail and the environments rival things released today, frankly. It's really impressive, and it comes from a few different angles of what's the team that made this?
Ready at Dawn.
Ready at Dawn. Thank you. You've got this on the fucking lock. But Ready at Dawn made a conscious decision before making this game to say, we are going to make a cinematic game that puts the visuals and the story and the cutscenes before gameplay. And that was their design philosophy. And I do think that is where this game shines its brightest in terms of having very high fidelity textures and these really detailed environments, and obviously a lot of focus put on this world design and the lore and all of that. But personally, I found myself enjoying the gameplay a lot more than I expected to. Coming from the shoes of someone who has played the Last of Us games, played the Uncharted games, played a lot of the linear single-player action-adventure games where, in Uncharted, they're just fucking holding the goddamn stick for Nathan goddamn Drake to climb the cliff. That's not that exciting. People still love the Uncharted games. I love the Uncharted games. But this game does those sort of things in an obviously new location, new lore, new light, but mixes it with, I found, very compelling gunplay. I think the gunplay in this game is super satisfying. The weapons are very, very varied. There's lightning guns and weird grenades and this thing that shoots powder, and then you use the left trigger to shoot the powder, and then you right trigger to blow up the powder that's on the guys. Like, there's a ton of variety in the satisfying gunplay here, and I had a great time with this game. I really did, and I got the platinum for it, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I think the order is quite good. I also played it way late. I didn't even get a PS4 until beginning of 2016 because I couldn't live without Star Wars Battlefront anymore. Sure. And that's the truth of why I got a PS4. But I finally picked it up on sale. Also, I was homesick, as I was a lot in high school, and played it for like 2 days.
Yeah,
it's very short, so that's very doable. But
let me see my.
I think it's probably 5 hours, 4 hours.
For 7.5 hours was my total play clock to get the platinum.
Yeah. So it's a quick one. I think that the game is certainly underbaked. Sure. I think that its reception at launch was certainly fair. Mm-hmm. When I think back about this game, I agree with you. I think that the gunplay is quite exceptional, and I think there's a number of very good combat set pieces.
Yeah.
But I think
oh my God, the whole chapter that's on this steampunk Zeppelin, and you're inside it, and it's exploding behind you, and it's got these like grand staircases, and it looks like the inside of a castle, but on a Zeppelin in the 1800s. Oh my God, so beautiful, so creative.
It's remarkable, and it feels really good to play. I think the problem with the order is that its stitching is not very good. I think that it's like Lovecraft and steampunk like orgy that it basically makes for the player is quite good because it facilitates that great arsenal and the story of Galahad and these men, right? But I think it also it travels towards its conclusion very quickly and set up a sequel that I never got. Yep. But at the same time, I think there's also a lot of connective gameplay tissue that isn't great, like very shallow stealth, frustrating stealth, or hey, now we're gonna push the crates to make the staircase type of deal, right? So though
as I was saying earlier, this is early PS4 generation, right? But these tropes are pervasive. This is not something that I personally don't critique the game for having these things, because I'm used to seeing it in games that I do love. The Uncharted games and the Last of Us games both do this. And and those are some of the best games I've ever played. So that element of the gameplay, because it's of its time, I would be remiss to see that show up in a 2022 game. But I don't really see that as a bad thing personally, because so many games were doing it then. It was sort of the new and exciting thing. Obviously, that's a little bit cheesy, but
no, I see where you're coming from. But I also think that Naughty Dog, for as amazing as their games as one of my favorite developers, they standardized a lot of boring gameplay conventions. A lot of them. And I think beginning with games like this is when you start to feel that influence, right? And I think PlayStation got smarter about what they took from Naughty Dog more on a thematic level instead of because the Uncharted games have a lot of boring shit in them. Yeah. And I think that in the context of this game, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more low key, a little bit more meandering. It doesn't feel quite as good. But when you're shooting through that Zeppelin, when the story and the setting is really taken off, it's quite a good game. I wish we'd gotten a sequel because I think they could have nailed it. But
but that fucking horse sailed a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah, that horse was shot in the head and thrown into the fucking river.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, but
it's time. It's time for a very interesting. It's time for a very interesting story on my part. So I'm sitting there working towards the platinum of the Order 1886. I've been by myself for like 6 days at this point because Tanner and Anna both out of town. I possibly had COVID, which I didn't, but so no one was coming around. And Tanner comes in just as I'm finishing like literally the last boss fight of the game, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?" I'm like, shooting guys and shit." And then I get the platinum. I finish it up. He's just sitting on the couch, and I turn to him like, "Tanner, I want to start another game. Like I gotta start another game. I'm in the mood. I gotta keep going. And it took me about 15 minutes to randomly put on and download Detroit: Become Human.
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting story for me, believe it or not, because I sit down to play Detroit: Become Human. I played 3 hours of it or so, and I'm like, okay, I've gotten just to the point where Tanner and I stopped about our freshman year. We tried to play through it together, but we just forgot after like the first few chapters.
Yeah.
For no particular reason, but it's hard for me and Tanner to sync up our schedules to play a game together. Like that. Yeah. So I got to that point, and I'm like, all right, I'll pick it up tomorrow. I'm gonna go get some shit done. I'm gonna go, wash the dishes. And I came back and I was like, I want to see what happens next. So I sit down.
What time of day?
This is like 9 p.m. something like that. Okay. So then Tanner and Anna are there, and I'm filling them in on the story, and we're getting invested in these characters, and they're helping me make these snap moment decisions of how I'm going to progress the story, and yada yada yada. They eventually inebriate themselves and fall asleep on the couch, and I'm still playing. They go to bed, I'm still playing, and then it's like 3 a.m. and I've beaten the game in ostensibly one sitting. Now this is not a short game, mind you.
No.
I played 13 hours of this game without moving my ass.
Yeah.
And I gave this game 5 stars. And I think it's one of the best video game experiences I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
I put it as like my 20th favorite game of all time. And I stand by that. I think this game is fucking phenomenal. I've never had a game draw me in like this in my life.
Yeah. So, David Cage game, Quantic Dream.
Yes.
Widely maligned game.
Yeah.
Widely maligned game for being a very surface level allegory for race, effectively. I haven't played it.
Yeah.
I have heard 2 parallel narratives about this game.
Mm-hmm.
That it sucks dick, the writing is terrible, and it's Quantic, it is even further down the Quantic Dream fucking rabbit hole than even like Heavy Rain. So that's one narrative I've heard. The other narrative I've heard since 2018 is that it was Colin Moriarty's Game of the Year in 2018.
Yes.
So it was already installed in my head that there's people that I listen to and respect that really enjoy this game.
Yeah.
Of course, canceled out by you, who I listen to a lot but don't respect at all, who also love the game, right? So I don't quite know where that sits, but no. But the truth of the matter is, I've been just wedged in the fucking middle of these 2 things. Mm-hmm. Because the thing is, for me, I don't find this game compelling, but I don't find it uncompelling. Okay. There's a lot of, I only have so much time in my day. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those games that never drew me in either direction. Mm-hmm. So I suppose my question for you is, because it's in the PS Plus collection, right?
Yes, that's how I played it.
And I would like, even though Star Wars Eclipse is not going to release until I can fucking, cash in my 401k and retire.
Yeah. You're taking care of your grandchildren. You're like, I really hope this fucking game comes out.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's also apparently going to be very different than the past games. I still would like to have a Quantic Dream touchstone.
Sure, yeah.
It's Heavy Rain that interests me, because I think that like the serial killer narrative, like that hooks me a little bit more.
Yeah.
What about Detroit was that hook for you? Because I'm very much open to playing this game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But I'm not quite sure why I would want to.
For me, as someone who is invested in, believe it or not, world building, lore, these, as I said, the sci-fi story of Horizon. Yeah. I said number 2 because I want to put Detroit at number 1. But I love the sci-fi of the Star Wars universe and the Marvel universe and stuff. So
you better.
I'm exaggerating when I say number 1 and 2, but I love both of these, and I prefer Detroit's, because what this game does, because it is very focused, is flesh out a history and a world like I've never seen in a game. Yeah. I mean, the ones that compete with it would be, you know, like Control, or how much I've been able to get into the Pokemon universe, or Overwatch, or something like that. But Detroit Become Human uses 3 different protagonists and a constant switching between them, and a variety of narrative choice, much more narrative choice than any other previous Quantic Dreams game, and much more choice than, frankly, I've ever played in a video game.
Yeah, sure.
To flesh out a world and set of characters that I frankly think people don't give enough credit, because the idea that androids stand on the back of the bus because, you know, they're seen as they're not humans, but that's seen as a very negative thing. Their sentience isn't recognized, that kind of stuff. That is obviously a very direct allegory for racial tensions in the 1960s and the civil rights movement. I personally don't think, though, that makes it bad or underthought.
Sure, yeah.
I see all these things that are clear allegories, but I see them in a way that is telling them through a obviously fictionalized story that makes it easier for a modern day audience to connect to something, to be put in the shoes of someone who has to make these decisions, that is receiving these kind of impacts on their life of being treated lesser and being literally kicked to the ground and discarded and all this stuff. And that's not something you can do. I feel like people would be even more mad if they made a Quantic Dream style game, but with black people in the 1960s. Like, that would come off in even worse taste, in my opinion. Obviously, that game doesn't exist. If it did exist, I could give it a try. It might be good. Who knows? But I do think the allegory isn't inherently a bad thing, and it's backed up by, I think, genuinely superb writing. I didn't pick up on the cringy and forced moments that people have through this game because I was very invested in these characters, and frankly, all the words that they said and decisions that they made felt very true to the characters that I was learning about. So I never felt like, oh, this is out of character. This is obviously David Cage trying to do fucking commentary just out of left field. It felt at home in this universe, and I was so enraptured with the drama of these characters and wanting to see where the story would go, because there's a lot of twists and turns, that it all worked for me. And I was very impressed by the width of the world that they created here. You're playing through linear scripted segments with choice in between them, but there's a surprising amount of variety in you're playing as Connor, and you're doing detective missions, piecing together things and pulling your bond together with this sort of buddy cop thing with Clancy, a detective played by Clancy Brown, and he's just fucking great. That relationship building there, and that gameplay being focused on detective stuff. The relationship building between Kara and the little girl she takes care of. Fuck, I can't remember her name.
Ellie.
Being focused on choice to take care of someone. What choices will Kara make to keep both of them safe, to keep them together, and how does that relationship develop? And then with Marcus, his gameplay being surprisingly more action oriented, and not necessarily combat, but you're exploring a lot more, you're meeting a lot more people, and his story being pushed into a revolution narrative. There's such a variety going on here in terms of within the linear scripted, mostly dialogue gameplay is more varied than I expected. And the story gets fleshed out from so many different directions of people in high places, people in low places, learning about all these different facets of this world, and even just picking up one of the magazines that's like a digital iPad magazine, whatever, and reading the 1 or 2 articles they have in each of them. There's no stone left unturned. How they think about, if androids exist in this world and they've existed for this long, okay, they're replacing people's jobs in this way. They are being funneled into different industries in other ways. How does the sentience of that they're gaining impact politics and the economy? And if they're not working for people anymore, how do the people with jobs fit back into society? There's so much nuance to the way that they crafted the history of this world that I was just stunned. I was blown away by it. And that's why, I mean, that's why I put it in fucking 13 hours without moving my ass. It's never happened to me before.
Yeah, no, I think that all makes a lot of sense. And I find the premise of both being on your side and saying that you're dumb to be equally compelling. So
that's true. That's true.
Have to check something out. But no, we'll see. Did Tanner like it from what he saw?
I mean, he and Anna were both sitting there very invested in what was going on. Neither of them were playing it. Neither of them were making the choices like I was. Neither of them saw the entire story. I sort of filled them in the next morning. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this happened. And this character, like a couple of my characters died before the end of the game. And they're gone. Like you can, the choice of this game is based on your skill at quick time events, which is, I think, the best use of a quick time event I've ever seen. So, you know, 3/4 of the way through the game, I'm escaping from guys chasing me and shooting me and this kind of stuff. And I make a decision of, okay, if I press triangle, I play dead. I you know, try to make a run for it. I try to save this one person. And I, in the moment, made a decision. Character's dead. Characters I'd spent the entire rest of the game with. And I'm like, oh, holy fuck. And I think there's a way to go back, but I didn't. And that really gives a weight to the choice. Like there's such a variety of ways things can play out in this game. It's fucking insane. And that makes it very easy to become invested, at least in my opinion, to become invested in these characters as you are helping them make a small decision at the beginning that ends up coming back to bite them in the ass or help them later on. And Tanner and Anna watching me, learning about these characters alongside me, they weren't even playing and they were just like, this is an interesting world, interesting characters. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened, that kind of stuff.
I like the sort of butterfly effect games. Yeah,
and it does that very well. Something that the other Quantic Dreams games don't do, as far as I know, at least what I've heard from discussion, is it shows the variety of decisions you can make. So when you finish a chapter, it shows you, okay, you make this decision, branches off into these. What percentage of people chose this? What percentage of people chose this? If you made a different decision here, now it's all grayed out, so you don't know what you could have changed, but it could branch off to this whole other set of things. So it does that butterfly effect thing very well from a visual perspective as well. God, okay, I need to take a break. Let's fucking talk about Kirby.
How did you know?
Twitter.
So, Tucker, I completed my 4th game of 2022 this morning.
There you go. I'm proud of you.
And that was Kirby Planet Robobot. I am doing my best to clear up the last couple Kirby games I haven't played ahead of Forgotten Land. Which, by the way, keeps looking better and better to me. I think it's running on the Odyssey engine. I saw somebody say that on Twitter, and it looks.
Why do they do that, or is there some sort of weird similarity? Or
I think it looked like the way Kirby's momentum moves, but also just the aesthetic of the game, like the lighting engine, everything looks like it's out of Odyssey.
Sure.
So we'll see if that's true or not, but I think that the game looks quite stellar. And so one of the Kirby games that I had played but never finished was Planet Robobot.
Yeah.
This is the game that I should have told you to play to get into Kirby. I think that this is probably the best Kirby game.
Ooh,
now, it's not my favorite. I prefer the both Superstar and Nightmare and Dreamland personally. But this is probably my third favorite, and I think quantitatively probably the best Kirby game, period.
Okay, sure.
Because it does a lot of things quite remarkably well. I think that in terms of the narrative framing, it actually has a compelling storyline here. Now, it's not super deep, but it's basically.
No, I don't expect that.
But it also is sort of like a.
I played Detroit Become Human. You think I fucking care about story?
It operates the way that I think a lot of great like Pixar storylines do, where to the kid playing, it's about the robots who come take over the planet. But if you sort of get the references they're making to like imperialism and like capitalist resource mining, it's really peculiar actually. The game almost it doesn't go anywhere with it, but it has like a more politically minded narrative than you would expect out of a Kirby game. It told over the course of a couple cutscenes between worlds, so it's nothing serious, but it's quite fun to have both a different set of villains. That feels...
a lot of Kirby games have different villains.
Yeah, but they sort of either have no personality or kind of all blend together.
Sure, it's a good point. You're either fighting Dinn and Meta Knight, or you're fighting literally end of the world, death incarnate, black blob in a fucking mech suit.
Yeah, which is cool, but like this sort
Sakurai sweating over choosing which villain to choose.
The sort of idea of like this corporate space space empire coming to colonize the planet is pretty fun. I like that, and I think, and with that, it brings a great aesthetic and great level themes. going through like these metropolitan cities that are being built on the planet, and going through casinos and all of these different stage aesthetics, and having the mechanized elements actually play into Kirby's gameplay with the mech suit, which changes sort of the puzzle solving, some of the combat opportunities, and makes just the act of getting through a Kirby stage a little bit more dynamic, as you'll be getting in and out of the mech to solve puzzles and doing various things. So
quick question.
Yes.
Does this game have copy builders? That's correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought that it was entirely replaced by the mech suit.
No.
So now I'm not gonna like this. I'm just kidding, like copy abilities.
Yeah, and then the mech gets copy abilities, but they're different, and then they operate differently than opposed when you're out of the suit. So I think that's all great. I think the bosses are also a lot more interesting now. Triple Deluxe already had more dynamic bosses, but these are multi-phased, and the final one's actually a little bit more challenging. It just takes the Kirby formula that exists and does something more unique and more interesting with it.
Yeah. The reason I've always looked at this one with more bravado, more chutzpah, is because the Kirby formula as it exists, because it has become so iterative for how many games there are, and how frankly similar most of them are. I've always been like, okay, well, that exists. I know I'm not quite a fan of that. I have my issues with it, but I recognize that copy ability is a fucking phenomenal idea. Changing your moveset in that way is a great idea. I just wish there was a better sense of place in the levels. I wish there was more coherent level design, more interesting level mechanics, a stronger narrative, stronger bosses, stuff like that. So I look to Epic Yarn, I look to Robobot, I look to something like Mass Attack, or games that take the idea of Kirby and mess with it enough to where it is not just another 2D Kirby game with a mild gimmick that doesn't really change how you interact with the game. But this does sound much more up my alley from everything you're saying.
Yeah, I think that the challenge for me is that it ultimately is another 2D Kirby game.
Sure. Okay.
That's what it kind of boils down to, is like, Return to Dreamland established the formula. Triple Deluxe established the formula, but on 3DS, and evolved it in some ways, and had like the effect where you can jump between the different levels of background and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Robobot does mechanically, fundamentally just iterate on these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really feels like they fine-tune the formula and then put something different on top of it.
Sure.
But you're still putting something new on top of what was already old in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Star Allies was like, let's just do the formula again, but having none of the charm and uniqueness of Robobot, which was a weird design decision in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this stands as the pinnacle of the modern Kirby games.
Sure, yeah. You're saying like Return to Dreamland up?
Return to Dreamland through Star Allies, like that. The new Super Mario Brothers Kirby games. Frankly,
those,
yes. This is the one that
so
feels...
all those games. Well, okay, I was gonna say all those games have a stronger identity than the new Super games, but I would say only Robobot really has an identity. Triple Deluxe has the fucking big suck.
Yeah, the other three are very standard Kirby.
Yeah, yes.
This one isn't, and I think that makes it more interesting, but it still puts it in that same zone.
Sure.
So it's gonna make me even more excited for Forgotten Land to both bring us into 3D, but also integrate that hub world where the mini game, like the side modes, actually contribute towards building the town and all of that. I think this is really going to be the conclusion. It might be mine, but I think it's going to be the conclusion of this kind of Kirby formula.
Sure.
So, Robobot, quite good game. Basically impossible to find a copy for less than full price though. So
yeah,
good luck.
All right. Thank you for talking. I've able to regain my composure enough after fucking babbling about Detroit for what, 45 minutes? Who knows? Now, okay, I've got 3 other games to talk about, and 2 that I've played 5 more games this week. Well, technically I played 6 more games this week, but I'm only going to talk about 3 of them. One of them is Call of Duty 1, which my review with Daniel Neveroli and Andrew Roscoe of episode 1 of Backcod Banter is now live. So if you want my thoughts on that game, fucking, unless you want to ask me any questions, I assume you haven't fucking watched the video, but
I watched the entirety of the video. I thought it was quite good. All I want to say is that Daniel really brought it with the costuming. And the lights in the background.
He was going to play the character Sergeant Dan the entire time, and I was not supposed to refer to him as Daniel at all, but I didn't realize that until it was over. So who knows? COD 2, we might ratchet up the Sergeant Dan content.
No, I thought that was quite a fun discussion, and I'm surprised by how much you enjoyed it actually. So I'm gonna be
So am I.
Yeah, I'm be very curious to hear your big red one discussion.
That's not happening. We're not doing the spinoffs.
I thought Call of Duty 2 was big red one.
No, that is the PS2 watered down version in somewhat of a similar engine.
Oh, well, now I'm very excited to learn what Call of Duty 2 is when that episode comes out. But nothing more to add. That was a very good discussion.
Okay, next up is a peculiar one and a controversial one within my own mind, which is the return of the Obra Dinn, which I popped into on Nintendo Switch through the lovely service known as Joe Pass, in which my friend Joe bought like 60 fucking games on sale over the winter break. So I've got a shit ton of stuff downloading, but Obra Dinn was what I was most interested in because I've heard across the years, across the fucking galaxy, people saying this is one of the highlights of 2018, and a year that did have some very high highs, but in my opinion, a less baked lower tier. This always stuck out to me as something that was very unique and very interesting for me to get into. And I played 4 hours of this game the day that I played it. And this might be my weirdest experience I've ever had with a video game, genuinely. All right. And if you're in the Discord, you probably saw this go down, but for posterity, I'm recording it here in this fucking time capsule. So I played the Return of the Obra Dinn for 4 hours in a day, and it's getting to be 10:30 at night, and I'm like, I need to rest up for tomorrow morning, whatever fucking thing I've got to go do. So I get in bed and I send a message in the Discord. I'm like, hey, I started the Return of the Obra Dinn. I know some of you like it. I've been having a really great time with it. I think the pacing was a little bit weird, but I'm very excited to get back into it. It's very big brain though, so I don't quite know how I'm gonna get into this. And what I come to learn is that the way I've been playing the game is very controversial, very antithetical to how the majority of people play this game. Now, I was playing this game in a very specific way that I felt was incentivized by the game's pacing and design philosophy, but apparently I was reading the game wrong. I consider myself someone who's pretty informed about game design and pacing and those sort of things. So I was surprised, genuinely surprised to learn that I was playing it incorrectly. Right. But apparently the way I was playing it was like specifically hurting my experience with the game. And so through like 2.5 hours of argument about this, I came to not really like the game. And it's not really the game's fault, which is unfortunate. But I got my experience with this game soured so fucking hard by this conversation that I would love to go back and give it another try. But I'm like over halfway through. But if I continue for my save, it's gonna fucking hurt my brain because I've really fucked myself in the position that I put myself in with how much information I've allowed myself access to at one point. It's a fucking shit show. But if I restart it, then I gotta watch all the fucking cutscenes again and all that. So I don't know what to do with this game. 4 hours. Name me with this so I can talk about more.
4 hours. Here's what I was gonna say. First of all, it's very funny to watch this happen because I'm in the fucking San Francisco International Airport, and it's like where I'm taking a red-eye flight, and I'm trying to pass the time. So you say I played the Obra Dinn. That game was cool, but I'm not quite sure what its design philosophy is for me. I found it interesting, but a little too vague. And I said, hey, this game sounds interesting to me too. I've always wanted to play it, but I probably have the same experience. And then I fucking open up Discord like 15 minutes later, and you and Sarah and Daphne are just going for it.
It was like the shit show.
It's like the fucking constitutional convention in the Discord channel, but Return of the Obra Dinn. And I found that quite interesting, and it reminded me actually a lot of our Cyberpunk conversations.
Sure. I don't really remember those happening in the Discord that much. But
well, this happened in whatever it was titled in an interesting way, but I forget it. Like
our Cyberpunk video.
Yeah, the one we made together.
Sure.
But the premise of that conversation ended up being in large part that as soon as the game lets you explore Night City, you did, and you got bored. And I didn't. I followed the story beats, and in my opinion, what you were supposed to do was that. Right?
Yeah, sure.
And in your opinion, you were supposed to do the opposite. And for whatever reason, I decided that I needed to, on behalf of the billion-dollar organization that is CD Projekt Red, defend Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
When in actuality, while I do think you were playing the game wrong,
yeah,
it's CD Projekt Red's fault for not telegraphing that you should have been doing something different.
That's a great
or
point.
At least not
Yeah.
telegraphing in a way to you that was clear. Because it's a failure on the game design level to leave the player behind. And now I get that in the case of a game like Return of the Obra Dinn, part of the appeal is that it's an adventure game. You're going to figure it out. If you get left behind, you get left behind. But I think that a lot of people set up a false binary in which either you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it wrong, it's entirely your fault, right? Yeah. And if you're trying, as a game designer, if you're trying to make a game that feels esoteric and driven by environmental cues, either you have to completely do this or you have to completely hold the player's hand. None of that is true, right? And I think about something like Hyper Light Drifter.
Sure. Not a game I have any experience with personally.
Yeah, which I started, got lost in, didn't find it fun to wander around, very much in a Zelda 1-like style.
Sure. I didn't know that's the kind of game Hyper Light Drifter was.
Yeah, it is.
This is fucking news to me.
Yeah, it's a Zelda-like.
Huh.
And I just think that at the end of the day, you didn't play the game wrong. You played the game the way you felt like you were supposed to play the game.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's how you were intended to, it doesn't matter because you were allowed to and you did.
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting. So for posterity and for clarification's sake, the way that I engaged with the Return of the Obra Dinn was progressing. So let me just set the stage.
Yeah.
You are an insurance investigator.
Right.
In the 1800s, whatever the fuck. And you board an empty ship with a magic fucking compass that allows you to see the last moments of someone's life right before they died. So you can piece together the last few moments, who killed them, where they were, and you're supposed to find the bodies, piece together how they died, who killed them, and like when it was or whatever, through watching these things and very meticulously observing the environment down to details of costuming and like tattoos and rings and things like that. Like you're really supposed to narrow in on who these people are and use that environmental storytelling to piece together 60 different deaths on this ship. And it's a fascinating concept. And this pretty much goes without saying. If you're watching this video, you probably know about the Obra Dinn. Very unique visual art style inspired by Commodore graphics that's sort of dark with white colors, but no color specifically. Very, very striking visually, and very interesting, as I've said, gameplay and structure-wise. But what this game is broken into 10, I believe, chapters that are different smaller stories that feed into the larger overarching story of, okay, this chapter is on the deck of the ship. This one is in the second level. This is when a monster attacked the ship. This was in the captain's quarters. So each of these chapters is supposed to, apparently, is what I've heard, tell its own small story, which I didn't really realize. But when you finish a chapter, you go from body to body and you fill out the pages of that chapter, and okay, boom, it unlocks the door, it unlocks the trap door to the next area down, and you can go explore that. In my mind, I finished the cutscene, it shows me a little smoky thing that shows me where the next body is. I finished the chapter, the door unlocks. Okay, I've gotten this information, but I need to know what's going on in the entire ship, so I'm going to head downstairs. I'm going to find that body, I'm going to follow the smoke trail, I'm going to finish that chapter and see where else I can go. I should cover the entire ship and make sure I've got as much information as I can to piece together everything. Apparently, though, that leaves way too many threads to manage at once, which is where my issue with the game came in. Is I was like, man, 60, like I had pieced together like 15 bodies at that point, but I'm like, man, 45 fucking bodies and characters that for the most part aren't named that I need to piece together. This is a lot. Like, I don't think I have the fucking mental fortitude for this. But apparently you're supposed to piece together the chapter that you're started with, piece that together, get the 5 or 6 bodies that are in there, move on to chapter 2, piece that together, and make it a lot more manageable within each chapter of threads to connect, which I didn't realize, obviously. And it left me in a place that was so vague and so many threads and so much storytelling, so much of the ship to explore that I felt incredibly lost and left behind. And that's because I thought that the game was pushing me with the cutscenes and the smoke trails and the, okay, you've unlocked a door, now you can go there, you can move on. That's how I thought the game was pushing it with its momentum and its pacing.
Yeah, so I haven't played it. I would like to, but I haven't. So I can't comment on the accuracy of your statement, but what you're saying sounds incredibly reasonable to me, right?
I agree.
And And I think that the challenge when you end up designing a game that allows to player options is that you need to account for them to take all of the options into consideration. I think of Red Dead Redemption 2, which I played at launch, and thought it was okay, but I got bored of it very quickly because A, Rockstar railroaded me too much through the story missions, and B, when I left the story missions in the open world, I quickly got bored of like getting my horse killed by a train and like having a shootout with sheriffs, right?
Sure.
And then I go to my friends and be like, this game's kind of boring, and they're telling me, no, why aren't you following the storyline? Why aren't you doing that? And so I wasn't wrong to do what I did, and you're not wrong to do what you did with the Obra Dinn, but I also think that there is a value in trying again. I certainly agree. I think there's a great value in you going back to the Obra Dinn and playing it the right way.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Instead of your way, and just in the ways that I actually just bought Red Dead 1 because it was on sale. I just bought a bunch of games on sale because I had a gift card. And when I get back to Red Dead 2, which I do actually quite want to play because it's so highly regarded, I am going to follow that story path. I think there's a benefit to saying, look, the game fucked up somewhere in here. Maybe it was the signposting, maybe it was just that this facet of the design was too interesting in almost a paradoxical way. Like it was too compelling to go off the beaten path. There is certainly a personal value in recognizing that even though the game let me do something I probably shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So
yes, and I definitely agree. I think there is a phenomenally and very uniquely crafted game here. I do not discount any of the enjoyment. I recognize so much of the writing quality and the attention to detail that. Yeah. Ooh, I can't remember the developer's name. He's the guy who did Fucking Papers, Please. I can find it in like 3 seconds. Lucas Pope. That Lucas Pope put into this game, I was blown away by it. Sure. I just thought that it was working on a level that I'm not used to working thought-wise in games. But now I realized that there was a mistake that I made in how I played the game. And I think you're right, recognizing that, okay, I played it wrong, but if you play it the right way, there's a great game there that you're going to fall in love with. So giving it that extra try is something that I would like to do. The discussion around it and frankly, what upset me most, and I know we're not having a conversation right now with them, but what ended up souring my impressions most was the idea that I was very alone in making this choice first and foremost. That apparently something was wrong with my fucking brain because I chose to play it this way, and that what I was saying was unreasonable for the structure of the game, which obviously I disagree with, and that's open to interpretation. But none of that is the game. The game didn't do anything for me to be soured on it. So giving it another try is something that I'd like to do just for fairness sake, frankly.
Yeah, also I'm now thinking of all the games, like Death Stranding is another great example for me.
Yeah.
Where they're like, go deliver the packages, and I'm like, what if I just didn't? And then I got lost, and like the fucking goo man ate me. I'm like, this game is dumb, you know? But another one that's on my list to give a second shot to. So.
Death Stranding?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, I never played, I think I talked about this last year at some point. I played most of Red Dead 1. I played like 3/4 of it. I didn't finish the game for whatever reason that frankly I didn't find the story that compelling, but I would love to play Red Dead 2. I really do think I would enjoy it. I haven't gotten around to it, but if we ever just want to sync our fucking clocks and watches and both play Red Dead 2, I think that'd be a really interesting conversation to have.
Do you have it?
I do.
Okay.
Tanner bought it at launch.
Sure. I would
much of it, but I own a copy for PS4.
Yeah, I would have given you my PS4 copy because I play on Xbox.
All right. Couple more. Yeah.
Couple more.
Two more, and then two that I'll save for next week, just so this isn't too long. So I still have some stuff for next week.
Sure, you will.
Next up is the next Vita game that I played, which is Tearaway for PS Vita, which is alongside Uncharted Golden Abyss, sort of the most iconic Vita game in terms of integration of its special capabilities, being a unique IP from Media Molecule, one of Sony's big stable IP creators, and I have never fully played through a Media Molecule game before this. I've dabbled in Little Planet 1. I dabbled in Tearaway Unfolded, but I often thought that if I were to play Tearaway, I would much rather it be on the Vita, so I can have a game to play on the Vita, like to focus on the Vita, and because I found the idea of integrating the Vita's special capabilities to be really compelling. And I was right. I was totally right.
Yeah.
Frankly, this game didn't surprise me at all because I had it pegged from square one what it was going to be, and it did that very, very well. I'm super happy I played this thing. It's a very great game, and it to me is a great reason why different control schemes, different funny little gimmicks for handhelds, for controllers, for gameplay, whatever, can greatly immerse you in an experience in a different way. The ways that Tearaway uses its the Vita's capabilities specifically are the back touchpad, heavy use of the back touchpad, a lot of tilt, and heavy integration of the camera, which is very fun as I'll get to. You were saying?
I thought you were pausing for me to respond.
Oh no, I am now. Go.
Well, the thing I would say is I played Tearaway Unfolded and I didn't like it. And I think part of it is what you're saying. The game was designed for Vita.
Yes.
Right.
However, that's not true because Tearaway Unfolded is heavily edited. Different kinds of different level layouts to accommodate for using the touchpad on the PS4 controller and stuff, and not having a back touchpad and all that. Yeah,
but nonetheless, that game was meant for Vita.
Of course, I agree.
You can cut it, you can change it, you can do whatever, but there's not the satisfaction of flicking shit with the DualShock touchpad that there is of hitting hitting the back touch and your finger pops through the screen or hits the drum or you're tilting. Like, there is a tactile element to this game's design that I think fits really nicely with its aesthetic that just was not conveyed, in my opinion, very well in Unfolded.
And that also could be part of the reason I never got that far into it. I believe, this is not a very long game. It probably took me 5 hours to finish. Which, again, most of these games are not very long, which is why I've finished so many. Although there are exceptions. But I probably only got like an hour into Unfolded, but I just never got past that. Probably for partially the reason that you're saying. But Tearaway does have its own identity, and it utilizing the back touch and the front touch and the camera and the tilt and all of this is a part of its identity in a way that not a lot of games can attest to. You think to something like Star Fox Zero being heavily integrated with the gamepad, but that wasn't very received. That wasn't received very well. Something like Skyward Sword being so heavily integrated with motion controls, not being received very well. I do think that this, for me, although I disagree with the motion controls on Skyward Sword for the most part, this was a huge benefit to me enjoying this game in its own unique way. The aesthetic, if you're familiar with it, is papercraft, and they take that to the fucking 19th degree of everything in the environment is papercraft, and paper scraps and waves are made of folded paper, and everything is animated in a slightly stop motion way that is very, very charming, and your little guy's bouncing up and down as he's traveling through the world. There's a really strong sense of identity here that is just so charming, and even though the narrative is weird, like the idea is you're guiding a messenger to yourself to deliver a message to the real world, because this fucking, like, there's gods talking amongst themselves. It's really strange, but even though that's not a super compelling point, you want to get to the next world to see what new gameplay mechanic are they introduced, how are they going to utilize the back touch or the front touch or the camera or whatever, and just see how they make a desert out of paper, how they make like the space between spaces, which is one of the later levels. It's come between the pages. How are they going to make that out of paper? How's the aesthetic going to impact that? And it's something like Crafted World or Woolly World or Epic Yarn, where such a strong visual identity doesn't, for me, really matter how much I'm engaged with the gameplay if I really just want to see what the worlds look like. But I was also pretty compelled by the gameplay here. I think that the 3D platforming isn't phenomenal, but I was engaged enough by using the back touch for drums, poking my finger through the paper to mess with the world like that, or as I said, one of the other things it uses is the camera, is having pictures of myself in the world to interact with. There's also heavy use of customizability in that you can at any time pull up a little cut board menu and drag some paper down and cut out a little shape and stack another shape on top of that, and then stick that anywhere in your guy or anywhere on the enemies. And also the sun, whenever you see it, is your face, like a live footage of your face going, like looking down at the world. I always paused whenever I saw my face in the sky. But this game is very, very special. And I think that Media Molecule should be given heavy props for how unique always their games are. But for this especially, making the Vita like worth it. Having all this shit, this cool game, using all this stuff, I'm very happy that it has back touch, although I would like a Golden Abyss to be able to be other way, so maybe not. But I'm very happy I finally got around to this game.
Sure.
Is that it?
Now, that's basically all I mean, the controls are really the main thing I find interesting with this game. It's very Nintendo-like in that design philosophy, the way that they integrate that hardware into the software. And again, why I just don't think it came through on PS4.
Yeah.
I hope Media Molecule makes another video game, because I'm a Dreams owner and I don't know why I am. So hope they make a fucking game. And don't just let Sumo Digital make all their games for them.
Yeah.
But I would like to play Sackboy's Big Day Off, whatever it is.
Yep. So do I.
But I know you're about to go into two other games you played on the system, spoiler alert, but fucking Edgar Vita owner over there, what's your next Vita game that you're interested in?
Specific game? Like a released game? Okay, so I have a list here. I would love to play Touch My Katamari, which sounds sexual, frankly. But it's the Vita Katamari game, and I'm
it's
a
like
Katamari
Yoshi
fan.
Touch and Go.
Sure, yeah. There's also a digital-only game called Escape Plan that I would really like to play, because it's literally available nowhere else, and it's only $10. So that might actually be where I would go next. But I went through basically every Sony released game on the Vita. I went through all the big exclusives, like a list of them. I went through all the ports, and man, the Vita has a really crappy library. It's really sad. Not because there aren't a ton of great games on it, but because a lot of the great games on it are available elsewhere. They're watered down ports for the Vita.
Yes.
It is indies. It is a crappy version of Borderlands. Like this kind of stuff, I would rather play elsewhere. So I don't have any of those that the only exception being the Drinkbox collection. Severed, I think, would be great on Vita. I've heard that both Guacamelee games are great on Vita. Or I don't think 2 is on Vita, but I think that's really the only exception. But I would love to play the other Sony games on the system. There aren't very many of them, but there's a Resistance game called Burning Skies. I don't know what that game is at all, but because it's a Sony published game on the system, I'd like to play it eventually.
Mercenaries, what is it? Killzone Mercenaries.
Killzone Mercenary, definitely that was the sort of early on big killer app of the system. There's a Little Big Planet game for Vita. Of course, Persona 4 Golden is the iconic Vita game. If I'm going to play it, I'd like to play it there, unless it comes to Switch.
Hopefully, the rumor is it's hopefully not going to be a Vita and Steam game for much longer.
Yeah, which of course then I won't play it on Vita. But then the other big thing for me is easier access to PSP games, because while I do have a PSP, they are very cheap on the Vita store. It is $10-15 for all the big ones. The one weird exception being that Daxter is $8. All the other ones are 10 minimum, but for whatever fucking reason, Daxter is 8. I don't know, but I'd love to play a lot of the PSP games because that has a much larger, more robust library than the Vita.
I'm gonna hit you with a left field recommendation, and if you're willing to wait until I go back home, I'll just send you my copy because I don't have Vita anymore.
How many video games do you have? Because I will take them all.
I have 2. I have this one and I have the Sly game that's on Vita.
Oh, Thieves in Time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Freedom Wars. Are you familiar with Freedom Wars?
That's also on my list. Freedom Wars and Volume are 2 other Vita games that I'd love to play, but they weren't in the category that I was talking about.
Yeah, Freedom Wars was basically the oh god, oh fuck, we lost Monster Hunter, we need something game for Vita. Because Monster Hunter, of course, was humongous on PSP. That was a humongous driving force on PSP. Went to 3DS. And so we got God Eater, which is boring, and Freedom Wars, which is kind of cool. You're basically like this. You're like a prisoner, and you like lose hours on your sentence by going out to fight. It's very anime. It's very peculiar, but it's basically a Monster Hunter game.
Sure.
But it's a Vita exclusive, one of a kind, quite a unique game. You're a prisoner, and it ends up the way you reduce your sentence. It ends up feeding into this really fun gameplay loop. I didn't play a ton of it. I honestly didn't play a ton of Vita games. Period.
Yeah.
And the reason I really was curious to ask you that question is because I have the exact same evaluation of that library.
Yeah.
For me, after the first couple months of having a Vita, I really used it for indie games, pretty much solely. Yeah. And it was great for
which
that.
Now I would rather play on my Switch.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Or for free on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Or indie for trophies on PS5.
So basically anywhere else.
Anywhere else but Vita. Yeah. That's sort of where I'm coming down on owning a Vita. I'm very happy I do because there are exclusive Vita only games that I would like to play. But that's about it. Like,
there just aren't that many of them.
Even looking at the collections that they put on here, like, I want to play the original Ratchet trilogy in the collection.
Yeah.
But I'd rather play them on PS3, frankly, because I'd rather have the larger scale experience with that, less cramped down on the small screen, like the God of War collection. Though if those are on PS3 as well, I'd rather play it there. Like, obviously there is content here, and I'm sure these games are fine to good to great on Vita, but so much of the library is available elsewhere and better elsewhere.
I will say Ratchet both ran and played very well on Vita, because I had that collection. I got it digitally. So I just want to give a recommendation too, but I'm also somebody who would every day of the week sacrifice the TV experience for the accessibility of handheld gaming wherever I am.
Yeah, sure. But there's actually another facet of the Vita's store and library that I found newly compelling.
PlayStation 1 games?
Which is PS1 Classics, available on PS.
Did you play Vib-Ribbon?
Oh, Gonga, I definitely did. So Vib-Ribbon is a weird fucking game. This is one of the really strange Sony exclusive games.
Yeah.
This is a PS1 game that I believe was never released on disc in North America. It was Europe and Japan exclusive. What the fuck is it?
Mind your manners. Keep talking.
But they eventually released it on Vita for a very funny reason, because Sean Layden accidentally announced the game coming to North America at an E3 conference, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Vib-Ribbon's coming to Vita in America," and he's like, "Ah, fuck, I guess we're gonna put Vib-Ribbon on Vita in America." Excuse me. And they fucking did. And I played the game. It was fucking $5 or something like that. Vib-Ribbon is really odd. It is a PS1 rhythm game where you play as a little white rabbit running along a line, and you press either down, X. Oh, what's that from? Why do you have that? What is that in?
So this is, well, I was going to say this for you to finish your little thing, but this is from Volume 1 of Lock On, which is a gaming journal, effectively, written by a bunch of my friends over in the UK. John Doyle, Ben Hayo, and my friend right here, Lewis Parker. Some of my friends over at Ninty Fresh crossover there wrote about Vib-Ribbon. So I want to show that off.
I'm going to have Aben Beater story time where you read that to me as I go to bed.
Pick up Lock On. It's fucking beautiful.
Or I can buy it. That's true.
Yeah, it's a fucking beautiful thing.
But you saw the art there. That's the art style of the game. It's black, entirely black, with a white line going through, and a white rabbit named Vibri dancing along the line, and you have to avoid squares, dips in the ground, wavy lines, and loopy-loops by pressing L, R, down, or X. And it is a rhythm game where you do this to the music, and the music is all J-pop composed by, I guess a popular J-pop band of the time. I have no, how the fuck would I know?
Right.
But this game is very unique. However, it is. I really enjoyed what I played of it.
Yeah.
But I did not really play Vib-Ribbon for what it exists to do.
Right.
Which is the biggest problem. Because the game exists for you to be able to use a quirk in the physical PS1's memory, where you put in the disc, you remove it, you put in a CD, and then you're able to play any song from a CD through Vib-Ribbon's rhythm game gameplay. It converts it automatically to a stage based on the waveform, and you play through it. Without that, and with the only content that Vita has available on it, you only have 4 stages to play.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, 6 stages to play through. 3 difficulties broken into 2 like chapters, whatever they're called, something. And all those stages are very fun. They ramp up in difficulty very nicely. I found the songs to be surprisingly great. It has a great art style. Vib-Ribbon is so fucking charming. When you win a level or you lose a level, she does this little dance with a jingle that's got this synth sound mimicking her voice. And there's these great animations. And if you get hit too much, you mess up too much on the rhythm game, you turn into a frog, then you turn into a worm. This game is so fucking weird.
Yeah.
But the PS Vita version is like 0.0001% of the possible content in Vib-Ribbon. And I can only play that 0.0001%. And that 0.0001% is great. It's an 8 out of 10 game for what I played. And for $5, totally worth it. But it's really unfortunate they couldn't find a way to allow you to upload MP3s to the Vita file or whatever.
Yeah, I find that curious because I believe you can put MP3s on Vita already, right? Isn't there a music player on Vita?
I'm sure there is.
I'm pretty sure there is. But I was pulling out my issue lock on so I could double check this as Lewis was writing here. And as you said, yes, the game fits into the RAM of the onboard RAM of the system.
Very small file.
Which is incredible. It is this is one of the PlayStation games I want to play the most.
Yeah.
I just don't have it. I actually don't even know how expensive a physical copy of Vib-Ribbon is. I have a PS1 to play it in.
Yeah. Do you know if the PS1 is region free?
I don't know if it is actually.
I don't know. But I think they're pretty expensive, frankly.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted a copy. But
because the notion, of course, there's people who custom load music into Beat Saber, for instance. Like my old roommate, he would like load in like anime openings and play them in Beat Saber.
That's epic.
Yeah. So like that stuff exists, but the idea of the novelty of the game on PlayStation 1 hardware existing on this little like physical chip of the system itself, allowing you to move it and fucking putting in The Life of Pablo or The Love Is Rage 2 or any of the other,
everyone knows
or
all
Digital
these,
Drug Lord.
Yeah,
or any of these
I think about
albums
these all the time.
Right. And playing a rhythm game to those off PS1, amazing.
Yeah.
Idea.
The interesting thing is I've watched a little bit of online. I watched a little bit of gameplay of people doing other songs using the discs, Vib-Ribbon thing. This game's fucking hard. The conversion of actual songs that are not designed to ramp in difficulty into Vib-Ribbon gameplay, I don't think you could fucking do it, frankly. I know I couldn't do it. Like because I listed the different obstacles and the different buttons you have to do, but what the 6 stages of the game don't really teach you until the very end, which just is a weird spike in difficulty, is that these obstacles can be mixed together. So it's a block with a zigzag on it. So you have to press R and down at the same time or whatever. You have to start mixing in, combining button presses, which I don't have the mental capacity to do.
I don't either.
Frankly, no, I don't have the dexterity to do that.
I have terrible rhythm.
But what I'm saying is, on actual songs that have much more complex waveforms than the designed levels of Vib-Ribbon, everything is those, and they're coming at you fucking hot and heavy. And the game also does this stuff where, as they're coming towards you, level elements can overlap, so it confuses a little more, or the camera will change perspective, which is very cool if that's the gimmick of the level. But I can find that very frustrating that it's happening in an actual song.
I again, it's so fucking clever though.
It's amazing, and the legacy of this game is also amazing. Number one, the soundtrack, the 6-7 songs, whatever, the soundtrack are available online because they were able to be ripped and played as a CD. Like, the disc can be played as a CD anywhere, so people rip those. They're everywhere. It's a great, I recommend the 25 minutes it takes to listen to the Vib-Ribbon soundtrack. It's fucking awesome. It's J-pop ridiculousness. But also there are 2 sequels to this game. There is oh Christ.
I did not know this. That's some new information to me.
The first one's gonna really, neither of them came anywhere but Japan. Yes, okay, so the second game in the series is a spin-off for PS2 called Vib-Ribbon. And it's got sort of an Okami art style, and you play as a guy with a brush drawing on a line, and you lift it up at certain times. That's all I know about it. Obviously, I never played it. The weirder one is the direct sequel to Vib-Ribbon called Vib-Ripple, in which
on what console?
On PS2.
Okay.
Where you play as Vibri, because it's a direct sequel, so it has Vibri, and the other one doesn't. It has another fucking weird guy. Where you upload JPEGs into the game, and the game places the JPEG onto a trampoline, and you bounce around on your image, collecting puzzle pieces and avoiding enemies. Instead of uploading your own music tracks, the idea for Vib-Ripple is to upload your own pictures. Like, you can put your dick pic into Vib-Ripple and jump around on it.
Well,
Yeah.
let's say you've taken a photo of your fully erect penis with the intention of putting it in the Vib-Ripple.
Yes, and that's now on my bucket list.
I don't even understand how you like. You can't fucking print it out and shove it under the PS2.
I don't remember. Do
you have to use this thumb drive?
I guess so. I don't know. I don't fucking know. There's probably some sort of adapter where you can go from an SD card to the PS2.
Now, were people using an SD card in 2002 though?
I don't know.
They're probably trafficking in the thumb drive.
Vib-Ripple came out in 2004.
2004. I think that was SanDisk stomping ground with the fucking
Let me just-
switchblade thumb drive.
Oh,
Did you
man,
have those?
What did
I
you
thought
say?
so. It was like a switchblade, but it was a thumb drive. So you'd like flick it and it would shoot out. You know? What I'm
Yeah,
talking
sure,
about?
I'm familiar with that. The Wikipedia page for Vib-Ripple is one paragraph. It has 60 default photographs. The player can create their own stages by uploading their own photographs from a digital camera or cell phone via the PlayStation 2's USB port, or even send pictures across the system's online network, which obviously I don't think exists anymore. The game automatically scales photographs down to 200 by 200 pixels. Vib-Ripple. Now, Vib-Ribbon was always on my bucket list to play because I'm like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
I need to experience this. And I obviously enjoyed it very much. Vib-Ripple is definitely on my bucket list now. And frankly, I might just see if I can find an emulation of it, because that game's inaccessible 6 ways from Sunday. But God, the fact that Vib-Ripple exists and Vib-Ribbon exists is something you need to learn.
Speaking of gaming, you know what game's on my bucket list to play for real?
What?
Nobi Boy.
Don't. Yo, wouldn't have known about that if it wasn't for me. I've taught you everything you know. Any final questions about Vib-Ribbon? No, I think I went over pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think we did. I think we did a nice job.
No, yes. No, I've talked about enough games. I did complete another game, which we'll talk about next week, and I pretty significantly started another game, which I will hopefully finish before next week and talk about next week. But believe it or not, I think that's enough for today.
Tucker, I just want to put a threat out to the audience.
Yes.
And people in the Discord know this. I bought Red Dead Redemption, Panzer Dragoon Orta, Asura's Wrath, Max Payne.
That was Asura's Wrath for those of you who don't get the fucking stumble.
Max Payne and Killer is Dead, and I bought 6. Oh, and Spec Ops: The Line.
Yes.
So BLB next week is gonna be banging when I don't play any of those and only play Halo.
Yeah. I actually don't think we got any BLB submissions.
We actually did. I looked.
Oh, we actually did. We actually did. I just didn't see them.
So here's what I'm gonna say. Now it's up to you if you want to make this kind of judgment call here. Mm-hmm. But I almost think we save them for next episode, because this has been a triple decker Super Supreme already.
Yeah, it has. Yes, it has. I mean, why not? Sure. Fuck you guys. No community.
You know what? No, you know what? We got 2 here. 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 One for each of us. One for each of us.
Community submissions.
Bum 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 bum. The nearly canceled in BLB fashion. We're bringing an idea back from the edge of the fucking grave. By the way, can I have the Vib-Ribbon soundtrack as my submission for the background music for this episode?
It would not work well as background music. I was thinking about that, And because this is the Tucker Hazel episode, and not that I've been doing background music consistently, that's just not true. I might put video game songs that I like. I might say "fuck you" to the audience and just do it Tucker Hazel style. You know?
I think the bigger "fuck you" to the audience was promising that there'd be community chosen music and then never having community chosen music.
Well, okay. Every time there's been music, it's been community chosen. So,
well,
I'm fucking 3 for 3 in that regard, I guess.
That's a good point. I'm gonna go first here.
Of course you are. And you know what? You're actually gonna do both of these because I've talked fuck enough today. My throat is literally sore.
Game Pass Greg likes Picross, aka Franz, writes, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker was a treasure and it deserved its own fleshed out spin-off. We're just gonna go past that sentence. This was peak comfort food.
What? That makes sense.
Comfort food. But the Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is the fleshed out spin-off.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It deserves to exist as its own fleshed out spin-off.
No, what he should have said is Captain Toad.
He should have worded it differently. Sure, yes.
Speaking of which, this is peak comfort food gaming. Never mind. Franz, do better. Franz is gonna become, because Will has vanished off the face of the fucking earth.
Yeah, true.
He was swallowed by the Peggle volcano. Mm-hmm. Franz, it's your turn now. All right, let's proofread. I'll send them to me first. But bonuses, I put it for free. # not an ad. There were some really creative and fun mini dioramas and banger remixes from 3D Land and others. My only complaint is that it was hard to see exactly where I was sometimes. That's probably due in part to my carelessness. I'm just saying I understand why they made a 3DS version now. That depth, baby. Thanks for coming to my Toad Talk Impromptu Edition. Every time Franz makes an error, it's immediately made up for when it's fucking asides. So Franz,
there was a lot of banger jokes in there.
Franz, you're on thin ice, but you're certainly above it right now, is what I'll say. I feel like we talk about Captain Toad Treasure Tracker like all the time.
Yeah, like more than most games. Certainly.
I think
we agree.
Yeah, I think it's over by now, but the game was up for free. So that's one of the Switch game trials.
Yeah, Nintendo put that on my Switch without me asking. And which is weird because I already had the game. Like I opened up my Switch to, what did I play on my Switch? I don't even know. Obra Dinn. And it was Captain Toad Trial, and I'm like, why? Why'd you put this on my Switch automatically? I hated when they did that on 3DS. I fucking hated that.
3DS was egregious because they would give you demos, but they would not be downloaded to your system. You'd have to download demos anyway, but they'd be wrapped presents. You'd open up your 3DS, you're like fucking 6 wrapped presents gets open.
Yeah, but this is the first time it's ever happened. Nintendo, don't do it again, please. I already have the game on my system. I already played it. Why can't they just recognize?
I have the game on your system.
Yeah, but you're on my system. Whatever. Captain
Toad Treasure Tracker, a very good game. Give us a sequel. Andrew Orozco of back cod banter in My Sours show fame, writes here, Injustice 2 is on sale for $3, so I figured I'd take the plunge and give it a try. I am terrible at traditional fighting games, so I simply avoided the online and just went for the campaign. The campaign is mostly about the fallout of the first game, where Superman and a handful of other DC heroes tried to impose some kind of a dictator regime to mitigate crime. Batman and his faction imprison Superman, but now a new extraterrestrial threat looms, Brainiac, and old enemies will have to put differences aside to confront this intergalactic threat, Brainiac.
Injustice 2?
Yes, I don't know why I did that. The problem with these types of games is that they are so systems heavy and demand a certain level of familiarity with the genre that they're unapproachable for the most part unless you're Brainiac. Fortunately, the team at NetherRealm made a great tutorial for the game and made the button prompts and combos as simple as it could be without becoming Smash Bros. I played the story on easy and completed it in a single sitting. Most of the fights required me to try more than once, but the last boss battle took me 11 tries to beat, which I think is against Brainiac. I had a great time with the story overall.
Okay, all right. I got it. So I'm actually very interested in playing this game, and I've been recommended it quite a couple times by you and by other people. I'm a comics fan. I'm a DC fan. I like comic book stories, like superhero stories, and obviously this is heralded as one of the best fighting game story modes. And I'd love to play through it. The thing that now grabs me most is the fact that he says if played on easy, short enough to beat in a single sitting. Whether or not that is a 5-hour sitting or a 2-hour sitting, obviously unclear. But I'll play it.
Well, in the life and times of fucking Tucker Hazel, Uncharted 2 is a game you can play in one sitting if you're really dedicated enough. That's
Can I
like a
do that?
12-hour game.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yes.
no. Yeah.
So Injustice 2 is my favorite fighting game, other than Smash Brothers. Do you hear that? Someone is real fun. They're really going for it. They're still going. But no, Injustice 2, I love Injustice 2. I think the game is quite remarkable for a number of reasons. And the number one is because of that campaign. Because not only is it a fully cinematic story mode with great cutscenes and diverse characters, but you get to pick who you play as in the encounters. So there are branching paths throughout it. Not that they, not that they matter in the grand scheme, but they give you get different perspectives on these fights, which I think is a really novel idea. And there's also
it would be a little bit weird if the dialogue was the exact same no matter which character you pick.
Yeah, it also has what I really appreciated was
Brainiac?
It had this mode. I think it's called the multiverse, where you would do challenges to earn different armor pieces, like constantly refreshing single player challenges to earn armor pieces to customize all these DC characters however you wanted them.
Yeah.
So I had a ton of fun going through that campaign and then just playing the multiverse to make the Batman I want, or the Wonder Woman I want, or get the Power Girl costume that had the biggest cutout around her cleavage, right? Yep. There are all these different choices you can make in Injustice 2. I really think that is a very good game, a very, very good game. And it was on Game Pass. I don't know if it still is. It certainly was for a long time. I played it on PlayStation 4.
I can look it up. Well, did you play digitally?
No, I had it.
Okay.
Got it back at release.
Let me open up
that is, by the way, that is my favorite DC Comics game. I love it.
Not that there's a ton of.
Well, there's all the fucking dumb Rocksteady ones that people allegedly like.
Injustice 2? Oh, shit. Injustice 2? Install this console. 33 gigabytes. Good. Google it.
That's the real Injustice.
I think BDSP, they were just like holding in a fart for a long time, and then they just had to let it rip, and they just let out all the fucking fart juice, and that was all the information we got about BDSP like 3 weeks leading into its launch.
And there was the kind of fart that feels like it stained your underwear, but it didn't. You know,
no, it
didn't even leave that impact.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even be proud of that.
No. Oh.